I sighed as I walked down the streets of Kanahagakure. A new day had dawned and I was ready to start making progress in training. The session with Fuyuko-sensei yesterday had gone fairly well in my own opinion, and hers as well from what I gathered. It had been emotionally draining, going over the 2 close calls I had with death during the battle for Tensei Bridge, re-experiencing the anger that I felt when I had fought the Jonin Nana, the grim realization when I was overwhelmed by the Chunin Shiki. She had assured me that those feelings were completely normal and common, especially for shinobi who never know what would happen next, and each mission could honestly be our last, whether it was from bad luck, accident, or our enemy was just plain better than us. The rest of the meeting had been talking about the fact that I was experiencing a war before I was even a teen. I was pretty sure she was trying to probe me to see if I was harboring resentments against Konoha for being forced to fight before I even hit the double digits for my age. I wasn't, for your information. Following the meeting I had pretty much went straight home, only stopping to pick up a meal at a local restaurant. Our fridge was empty because none of us knew when we were going to be returning, and at the moment we only had canned goods that would last through an apocalypse, and let's just say that I would rather eat field rations before eating those. Seriously, field rations don't quite taste like ass, but it's a fairly close approximation. After eating I had spent some time leveling up my chakra control skills, tree walking, and water walking, before calling it quits and headed for bed, sleeping like a complete rock. Now I was on my way back to Sugiro's to pick up my new jacket. Unfortunately, my usual combat outfit had been pretty much damaged beyond repair during my fight with Nana, leaving me with little in terms of defensive options. But I was a kunoichi. I wasn't supposed to sit and take enemy attacks like some kind of samurai. I'm supposed to dodge them. Besides I found a nifty little seal not too long ago that would allow me to increase the defensive abilities of cloth-based objects. It wouldn't quite be as strong as say iron, but apparently it could make something like a cotton-weaved shirt as strong as Kevlar. And considering that most shinobi outfits are made out of tougher materials, I think I would be able to get away without wearing armor. Good morning. I called out as I entered the shop, getting the attention of Sugiro. Ah, welcome back, Yuriko-chan. He called out cheerfully. Here to pick up your order, then. 1 SEC, Haney. Yuriko is here for her custom order. Coming. A feminine voice called out before a red-haired, blue-eyed woman appeared from behind the large shopkeeper. Everything Sugiro was physically, his daughter wasn't, apparently, not even a foot taller than me. The teen woman was soft curves and tiny, especially when compared to the giant that was her father. Yes, I got your jacket right here, she confirmed, smiling widely at me as she handed the jacket over to me, the Uchiha clan symbol emblazoned on it. Grinning, I accepted the jacket and immediately threw it on over the sleeveless black shirt I was wearing, testing out its fit. Thanks a lot, I said gratefully, adjusting the collar a bit. It's good work. Looking up from my jacket I met the scrutinizing gaze of Haney. What? I questioned nervously as her eyes bored into me. That skirt does not work with that jacket, she told me after several moments of nervous silence, her father groaning as he slid his face into the palm of his hand, muttering something that sounded like, here we go again. The undershirt works, but blue and red? They just clash in a terrible way. I blinked as I took a nervous step back from her, a strange feeling of inadequacy welling up inside of me. I don't have any other colors for my skirts. I replied defensively. The civilian woman huffed in response before grabbing a hold of my wrist and began dragging me over to the changing room and shoved me in. Wait here, she commanded before stalking off. Blinking in shock, I turned to Sugiro, who simply shook his head in response. She gets like that whenever she encounters a travesty of fashion, as she calls it, he replied with a long-suffering sigh. Just go along with it, many are actually happy with the result. I nodded slowly, turning my nervous gaze to the teen who was darting through the clothing rack set up in a corner of the store before turning back to her father. Actually, there was something I wanted to ask you about, I spoke up, getting his attention again. I was wondering, do you have any kind of holsters for a kodachi that will work on the leg? I questioned him. See, I normally have it on my back, but it's hard to draw it quickly when it's behind me, and I need my waist free so I can reach my pouch easier. Sugiro hummed in response before nodding in understanding. I think I get what you're looking for, 1 second, he requested before disappearing into the back, just as Haney appeared before me again, shoving an armful of clothes into me. Try these on, she urged me before shutting the door closed. Blinking at how what was supposed to be a simple pickup was progressing, I let out a sigh of resignation and began pulling off my own clothing to do as she said. It didn't take me too long to change my clothing, the clothing she had selected for me being simple to pull on, a trait shared by most shinobi outfits, and looking at myself in the mirror, I had to reluctantly agree, it did work. My shirt was still black, but was now a t-shirt that covered some of my upper arm with a pair of reinforced gloves covering my hands. The skirt had been replaced by a crimson-red one that was shorter than the blue one I had been wearing, going midway down to my thigh and bearing a slit on the left side to ensure that it didn't interfere with my mobility. A pair of spats were on underneath to protect my modesty, while a pair of thigh-length stockings led down to me new sandals, my new jacket. Finishing the entire outfit off. Letting out a sigh, I reluctantly opened the door to an excited cheer. Am I good? Or am I good? Haney questioned with a large grin as she took in my new outfit. It's good, I managed to get out as I looked down at myself, a sinking realization that I really had become a girl sinking into me. Thank you, I guess. Haney grinned at me in response before bobbing her head. Well, she isn't wrong, you definitely look like a kunoichi in that outfit, Suguro informed as he appeared. A tiny one, but a kunoichi nonetheless. He chuckled as I scowled ineffectuality at him before handing over a holster. This goes on your right shin, he explained. Should be exactly what you are looking for. Swallowing my scowl, I accepted the red holster that I quickly strapped around my shin as instructed before unsealing my kodachi and slid it in and secured it. Standing up, I saw that it came up to my thigh and tried moving around, even sticking myself to the ceiling of the shop before testing the draw. It was far faster than when I had it on my back. Even when I had tried it on my lower back, the 60 centimeters blade popping out of the sheath with ease as I took a few experimental swings. It's perfect, I announced with a wide grin at the man. So, how much do I owe for all of this and a few spares of the outfit? Turns out, quite a bit, so, 25,000 ryo later I walked out with several copies of my outfit sealed away along with another 3 copies of my new kodachi harness. After dropping the clothing off and grabbing a quick bite to eat, I grabbed the rest of my combat supplies and made my way to the training grounds once again. It was time to train. The Blackwood Forest. As soon as I selected that option as put my hand on the gate, I suddenly found myself in front of a forest that I was damn certain hadn't been there before. Oh right, Toparama and Madara had decided to fuck with space/time for whatever reason to make pocket dimensions to shove chakra mutations into. Shaking my head, I let out a sigh before stepping towards the forest and began walking through it. Hey, it's a bunch of squirrels, what's the worst that could happen? I really should have known better to tempt Murphy, seriously, what the in the hell was wrong with me when I thought that? Now I was surrounded by waist-high 2 feet tall ravenous fucking beasts that were slavering at getting a taste of poor helpless little Yuriko. Well, maybe not helpless I guess, I admitted to myself as my kodachi, a light with chakra flow, chakra scalpel, cut deeply into a squirrel that had taken a running leap for my throat. The crimson squirrel, screech as my blade cut into it, severely damaging several of its organs and muscles. I ignored the beast as I turned to the next beast, flinging a handful of shuriken at it to get it to back away before storing my kodachi to form the seals for a new fire jutsu that I picked up from the Uchiha Jutsu library. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire. I intoned as I spat out a shotgun-like blast of fireballs that slammed into 3 of the squirrels, the hidden shuriken within the technique adding to the damage as they tumbled back. My instincts flared, making me roll to the side as another squirrel charged out from the underbrush to try and jump onto me. Once I was clear, I drew out my kodachi, slashing as it came free, applying a hasty, fire release, chakra flow, to the blade as it ignited the squirrel. Placing my back to a tree, I took in steady breaths, holding my kodachi at the ready as I carefully watched the recovering squirrels, the one that I slashed with chakra flow, chakra scalpel, finally dying from blood loss. How long has it been since I entered the training ground and started fighting these kami-cursed squirrels? 30 minutes? An hour? Shaking my head, I cut the flow of chakra to the fire release, chakra flow, and reapplied chakra flow, chakra scalpel, both because I wanted to train with it, and because it was honestly more damaging than anything else I had at the moment. My Sharingan alerted me to one of the squirrels leaping up at my face. Predicting its path, I sidestepped its leap and slashed my kodachi through its neck, beheading it instantly before throwing myself in a flip as another squirrel tried to take out my hamstrings, my free hand flashing through seals in the space of a second to form a chakra scalpel, and using it to sever the squirrel's spine. Landing, I struck out with my foot to kick a squirrel away from me before dropping to a knee and stabbing up with my kodachi, another squirrel flying overhead. If I had learned anything during my time on the front lines, it was awareness of my surroundings. it was far too easy to lose myself to the predictive abilities of the Sharingan, relying on it to warn me of danger, when it could only see what I saw. Fighting alongside my brother showed me to be mobile when fighting, to be constantly scanning the area around me, watching below and above as I moved. I leapt and pushed myself off a nearby tree, soaring over a pair of squirrels as I threw my kodachi down into one of them, embedding it into the spine before landing on the other, using my admittedly slight weight to stun the beast before shoving a chakra scalpel into its brain. Grabbing my kodachi, I finished the paralyzed squirrel off before turning around and spotting the final 2 mobile squirrels slowly getting to their feet. Not allowing them to recover, I formed 3 seals. Fire release, great fireball. I shouted before releasing a single fireball that was as tall as I was and taking a good chunk of my chakra with it. The 2 squirrels were unable to get out of the way in time and were caught in the flames and died soon after. Panting, I scanned the area for any other threats. I let out a sigh of relief as I only saw the remaining enemy was the other squirrel I had paralyzed. Walking over to it, I finished it off before slumping against a tree. God damn it, squirrels, fucking squirrels are this dangerous? I panted, shaking my head. And it only gets worse from here, Cammy, damn it all. Shaking my head, I opened the alerts menu and started sorting through them, ending up with 6,650 EXP and 5,600 Rio with an assortment of crafting materials from killing the 7 squirrels, and that was the 4th ambush that I killed today, making it a total of 26,600 EXP and 22,400 Rio gained so far, equaling 2 more levels, bringing me up to level 26. Unfortunately, the damned box won't let me apply my new stat points while I'm inside of a dungeon. Talk about a piss off. Shaking my head of the thoughts, I pulled out a sword maintenance kit and began restoring the durability of my kodachi. It was sitting at 40 durability and I didn't want to risk it breaking in the middle of a fight. Once that was finished, I topped off my health before my stomach began to rumble. Must be around noontime then. Hard to see the sun past the thick foliage of the trees, even if light did manage to stream through. Although this was a pocket dimension, so who knew if the sun was even in the right position when compared to outside of the training ground. Pulling a sandwich out of the inventory, I hummed in thought as I ate it. It was strange how my powers worked. Anything I put into the inventory was put into a type of stasis, it seemed. I had tested it with some raw meat and left it for a week. It came out like I had just bought it, and while it automatically looting things from my enemies, I could also put in things that I grabbed from them. And sometimes they had things that they were never even using in the first place. So, where did the items come from? Was it whatever decided to reincarnated me here as Yuriko Uchiha? Something else? Were they benign in nature? Gah! It was hurting my brain too much to think about it, not to mention the feeling dread that filled me the more I thought about it. Yeah, I think in this occasion, ignorance is bliss would be the best route to take until I come across some more solid evidence. Finishing off my sandwich, which also helped restore a portion of my CP thankfully, I stood back up and began heading deeper into the forest. I leapt up into the trees. It was easier for me to remain undetected amongst the leaves than on the ground, as I moved, keeping my Sharingan active as I searched for my next set of enemies. Soon enough I found a small group of rabbits nearby, each of them up to my knees in height. A quick observe, telling me they were killer rabbits, making them chakra beasts. Thankfully they hadn't seemed to have noticed me yet as I glided amongst the trees, getting myself into a position for an ambush of my own. I landed on a branch above them, so focused on them that I didn't notice it already had an occupant until I disturbed him. Sitting next to me, staring at me in surprise was what my observe told me was a screaming squirrel, whose mouth was already open and about to start screaming. Well damn, there goes my ambush. The scream the little guy produced was deafening in sound as my hastily drawn kunai managed to silence the critter, although I had been thrown off balance by it and ended up falling to the ground, right in the middle of the now very alert killer rabbits. HP, 1315 status, death, temporarily, 30 seconds remaining, unbalanced. I didn't wait to see what they did or to regain my hearing as I threw myself up and flipped back, just in time to avoid a rabbit slamming down right where I had been lying prone, leaving a sizable dent in the forest floor. I staggered a bit as I got to my feet, my inner ears shot to fuck from that little bastard's scream. Even though I still kept myself moving as I formed the seals for the mystical palm, messing up on my third hand seal and causing a chakra backfire. HP, 1263 status, death, temporarily, 30 seconds remaining, unbalanced. I scowled as my hands shook from the backlash, ducking out of the way of a rabbit's bite. Holy shit, those teeth are sharp. I once again formed the seals, getting them correct this time before placing my now glowing hands over my ears, correcting the damage to my inner ear, restoring my equilibrium. Just in time as the rabbits had managed to herd me into a trap, 5 of them jumped towards me at once. My Kodachi was out in a second as I slashed one of the rabbits, tilting my head just enough for one to pass my head by, although it did leave a scratch on my ear. My hand came flying up in a palm strike to the third, the fourth was evaded by bending forward, and in what would probably be an impressive display of flexibility smashed my right foot into the fourth and spinning myself so that I could then drive it into the fifth with a heel drop. Getting myself to my feet, I took a second to apply Chakra Flow, Chakra Scalpel, to my Kodachi before resuming my battle with the rabbits. The one that had scratched my ear had turned itself around to face me as his fellows recovered from my counterattacks to leap at me again in a rush of speed. By Kami, these little things had a hell of a leap. It was thanks to my Sharingan I was able to throw myself to the side as I slashed with my Kodachi, managing to cleave off one of his legs before turning to side and bringing the blade around to guard against another rabbit's lunge. Holy crap, I was actually sent sliding back by that rabbit slamming against my Kodachi. Retaliating, I grabbed the still airborne rabbit by the ears before slamming it into my rising knee and tossed it as hard as I could manage into a nearby tree and fired of a single seal, one-handed, fire release, fireball, to finish the creature off. Gritting my teeth, I spun around another attempted attack. They only had the one attack, but still, goddamn, there were just so many of them. I was forced to suddenly lean back far enough that I was able to feel the tips of the blades of grass under me tickle my scalp as another one blurred above me. Planting my hands on the ground, I managed to leverage myself into a heel drop on the rabbit, feeling the beast's spine shatter as it was driven into the ground by my foot. Balancing myself on one hand, I stabbed another rabbit with my Kodachi as another rabbit tried to take advantage of my disadvantageous position. Flicking the surprisingly heavy body off of my Kodachi, I struck another rabbit in the face with a palm strike to throw it off balance and flipped the rest of my body up, balancing on a single hand as another pair tried to take a chunk out of my legs. Bending my elbow, I managed to push myself into the air from that position and flipped so that I landed feet first on the ground. Sweeping my blade in front of me to keep the rabbits from trying to attack as I landed, I leapt back to create more distance as I placed my Kodachi back into the sheath. I flipped through the needed seals and inhaled. Fire release, great fireball. I intoned as I sent out a continuous flame to incinerate the 3 that were grouped together. Once I was certain they were dealt with, I let up on the flames and scanned the area for any other mobile hostiles and let out a relieved sigh as I began mopping up the ones that were immobile. 9 of the little bastards, damn, did that scream from before bring more in? Gonna have to be more careful for those screamers then, I muttered to myself as I looked up at the foliage above me. Stupid little buggers. Alright, let's see what I got from that little adventure. Opening the alerts menu to check over the reports it gave me on the gains for EXP and such, my eyes lit up as I spotted an alert for a new perk. Your skill at avoiding your enemies has granted you a new skill. Dodge, passive, level 1, 0%, plus 15% effectiveness at avoiding enemy attacks. Huh, alright, I can definitely use something like that. I don't like getting hurt, and situations like against Nana would have been so much easier if I had been able to evade her attacks. Letting out a breath, I shook off the memory and began sorting through the assorted kill alerts. Alright, 9 killer rabbits, and a screaming squirrel, coming to a total of 7,400 EXP and 5,900 Rio with assorted crafting items. I really should learn a crafting skill, or bring them to Suguro. Taking a moment to gather myself mentally, I let out a sigh before relaxing my body and started forward again. It was strange though, I didn't encounter anything as I moved deeper, nor did I see any signs of habitation here, like the chakra mutations avoided the entire place, even though it looked like there was some decent vegetation here. My eyes snapped up as I caught sight of some movement, my entire body tensing as I waited with bated breath. When a small, normal-sized rabbit hopped out of the underbrush of a nearby cluster of trees, I let out a breath of relief. Well, hey there little guy, I called out, a small smile of relief on my face as I relaxed my guard a bit and stepped closer. What are you doing in here? Actually, how have you survived here? I didn't notice it as I walked forward, but the rabbit had frozen when I made myself known and began walking towards it. Its beady eyes watching my every movement as I got closer. I was about to lean over to pet the still rabbit, also check it for tags in case someone's pet had gotten lost, when all hell broke loose. The rabbit had suddenly vanished from my eyesight. Why did I ever turn my Sharingan off, before something hit me in the gut with the force of a tour bus going to fat camp? Next thing I knew I was having another lesson in flying before slamming into a tree with enough force to splinter the back. HP, 952. What? Blinking, I tried to reorient myself and blinked again as all I saw was that same rabbit just hopping towards me, but this time there were letters floating above in bold red text. Rabbit of Kerbanad, level 30 HP, 3500 CP 1, 500. Oh god, what has Konohagakure's founders wrought upon me this day? It was at this moment that I decided, when I meet Tobarama or Madara, whichever one of those bastards I came across first, I was going to kick them straight in the balls, with a chakra scalpel. Granted, they would likely be an impure resurrection zombie, but still, it's the principle of the matter. Wait, where did the rabbit go? Oh shit. I threw myself to the side just in time to avoid getting my face mauled by the demon rabbit as it tore through the tree that stopped my rabbit-induced flight like it wasn't even there. Getting to my feet, I quickly drew out my kodachi and started, chakra flow, chakra scalpel, on the blade as I tried to find the rabbit that was now hidden amongst the underbrush. I must never let Sakaki and Ai-san find out I was being hunted by a rabbit. My danger senses flared as I tossed myself to the side again, this time catching sight of the rabbit as it tried to take a chunk of my head off and managed to graze its skin with my scalpel-empowered blade, only to find the chakra rebuffed by the rabbit's own. Seriously, what the fuck is this rabbit? Throwing myself away to create more room, I leapt up onto one of the overhanging branches to try and get some distance between me and what could only be the boss of the Darkwood Forest. Observe, I panted out as I kept moving, keeping the rabbit in my line of sight as I moved. How is it tree running? Rabbit of Kerbanad, level 30 HP, 3500 CP 1, 500. Perk's unassuming form, its appearance belies its strength, making any who would approach its domain underestimate it. Superior Chakra Beast, this beast is the alpha predator of its environment, because of its feeding on other chakra beasts. Its chakra is unusually dense, allowing it to rebuff any chakra weaker than its own invading its body. Son of a motherfucker, okay, if I survive this, I am going to be training in more offensive jutsu than just my chakra scalpel because this thing in front of me is bullshit. Sheathing my kodachi, I really need to learn how to do more one-handed seals. I began molding my chakra. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire. I called out as I exhaled a swarm of fireballs at the bouncing demon rabbit that was chasing after me. While the majority of them missed, I managed to land a few on him. A few twitches of my fingers and the shuriken hidden in the fireballs that went wide suddenly broke away from the flames and began spinning around to catch the rabbit in the nano wire tied to them. Then the rabbit decided to simply just bite through the wire. Wire that was able to have a fully grown man hanging from it with just a single strand. Fucking bullshit, this thing is a rabbit. I shouted as I started running again, hurling chakra-infused kunai behind me as I moved. It hasto be the Bijou the sage told no one about. Growling, I drew out my kodachi again and started applying fire release, chakra flow, onto it before doubling back to the rabbit. Thankfully my sudden change in direction managed to catch it between leaps and I managed to get in a burning slash across its flank. Dear Cammy, it's hard to hit a normal-sized rabbit with a sword when it's moving. Not stopping to see what damage I caused to it, I continued to run. Thankfully I seemed to be faster than the rabbit at this point. Oh hey, the forest is on fire. Wait, oh right, fire plus trees makes more fire, doesn't it? A fire I was heading straight for, with a demon rabbit at my back that is most likely pissed off that I injured it. Cammy, why do you hate me so? Gritting my teeth, I altered my path. Sheathing my kodachi, I slammed my foot against a branch with as much force as I could muster to send me flying from my path at a 90-degree angle before turning around mid-air as I completed a set of hand seals, in for a penny, in for a pound. Fire release, great fireball. I shouted at the top of my lungs as I pumped more chakra than what was required into the jutsu. Thankfully the rabbit had indeed been following my every move as I exhaled a fireball easily twice my own size directly into the demon's face. I could only stare as the fireball continued a good ways before it suddenly exploded. Huh, it normally doesn't do that, going to have to check my alerts later. Unfortunately for me, the rabbit blurred out of the conflagration and somehow managed to convey a feeling of absolute rage at me. Huh, was this real bloodlust I was feeling? Well damn. Rabbit of Kerbanad, level 30 HP, 2145 CP 1034. Alright, I'm doing damage to it, that's the good news. Bad news, it was now ricocheting itself of the trees as around me, doing a damn good impression of Rock Lee when he fought Gaara. I let out a cough of pain as the rabbit slammed into my back, shaving off the better part of nearly 500 HP before I managed to get his pattern down enough to start avoiding his attacks. I was starting to get used to his speed, my Sharingan getting better at predicting its movements as I managed to start counter-attacking. It was a battle of attrition at this point as I caught its side with my Kodachi again while it managed to trip me up, slamming me into the ground and shaving off another 135 hit points. But, with the rate its CP was dropping, it had to have been using some kind of technique to increase its speed. All I needed to do was survive until it ran out of chakra. Then, hopefully, it would be helpless to resist my offense. When it finally happened, I nearly let out a shout of joy as it pushed me below 200 HP, the rabbit suddenly coming to a halt as it dropped to the ground, the area around us a mess of broken trees, scorched ground, and all-around destruction. "Alright you little bastard, time for revenge," I growled as I applied Chakra Flow, Chakra Scalpel, to my Kodachi. "Let's see you repulse my chakra when you don't have any of your own." It wasn't making my revenge easy, that's for sure, as it used its own natural evasiveness to avoid my attacks as I chased after it. Using a clever little trick of rebounding kunai, I managed to drive it into one of my strikes that cut its rear leg's hamstring. The beast toppled to the ground, unable to keep going with its leg so badly injured. 3 times. "I've nearly died 3 times since I've arrived," I panted, a kind of giddy rage filling me as I stared at the helpless beast. "Now, I am getting revenge for it." I formed the hand seals I needed to finish the beast off. "Now burn, fire release, great fireball." I shouted as I released the flamethrower onto the beast, keeping the fire going until I almost depleted all of my chakra. "Congratulations, you have defeated the Rabbit of Kerbanath. 10,000 EXP and 15,000 Ryo received. Inaba Rabbit, Jutsu Scroll and Darkwood Forest Key looted and stored in the inventory." "You're goddamn right, I beat that thing," I crowed proudly as I started laughing. "I don't know who did it, but if I ever find who put that damn rabbit in here, I'm going to remove their genitalia." Now exiting Darkwood Forest, you will find your clear reward at the entrance. I didn't even care at this point, I was tired, hungry, and I just wanted to go home. But still, once the flash of light of the transportation was finished, my gaming instincts brought me to a chest that looked like had been sitting there for decades, a note over top of it declaring it the reward left by Hashirama for whoever cleared the forest first. Which, considering the beast of a rabbit that had been in there, I'm not surprised someone hadn't cleared it yet. Pulling the key from the inventory, I unlocked the chest and opened it to find a sheathed Kodachi sitting within. "Observe," I called out as I stared at the blade. "Tsuki no Usagi, Rabbit of the Moon, a Kodachi forged by the smith Muramasa and gifted to Hashirama. The Shodai left this blade for the one who managed to slay the dreaded rabbit that lay within the Darkwood Forest. Chakra reactive, plus 50 DX when equipped, plus 15 to 50 STR when under the moonlight, variable depending on the phase of the moon with the full moon giving the most benefit. Durability 3500/3500. Well, damn, that's a good weapon." I was reluctant to replace my current one, considering it was a gift from my father, but in the end I needed the strength that it gave me, so I replaced the sword with the newer one in holster. "Alright, time to head home," I told myself with a groan as I began to limp my way home, healing myself up as best as I could as I moved. Sometimes, being a gamer sucked. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.